What's good? It's Friday. Hope everybody's doing good, I guess. Ready for the weekend. I hope whatever you had going on at work, you didn't make any configuration changes on a Friday, and if you did, hopefully you're not the on-call person. So, really glad to have everybody dropping in for another CyberInsight live stream. Today, again, we're going to be continuing our short series here on how to build out secure networks. Before we jump into that, I had a friend ask about if I was bringing any beverages on the show. So, Kev, if you are watching, I do have something here, which I guess means that the unofficial sponsor of today's show is Barrel Dovetail Whiskey. So, Barrel is a fantastic whiskey company, and their Dovetail version is absolutely awesome. It's a cask strength whiskey, which is aged in, let's see if I get this right, sherry, port, and Cabernet barrels. And I believe it's bottled in Kentucky and is almost 123 proof. So, yeah, it's no joke. So, let's hop into what we're going to be discussing today. And that is a topic that we don't normally think about when we're talking about network security, and that is going to be DHCP configurations and logs. So DHCP is something that we use quite a bit in all of the different environments that most people work in, and we use it in our homes. And we normally just kind of take it and turn it on, and whether or not you actually do anything to secure it in any way or monitor what's going on might depend with the organization that you're in. So let's talk a little bit about it, about some different ways that we can look at configuring it and things we want to pay attention to. I'm going to talk about a few things here that are in the checklist, and then a few other things that I think are important in additional to this. So the first one on here is making sure that you have some type of auditing events turned on, right? I think depending upon what you are using as your source for DHCP, that will kind of differ whether or not this is kind of something that's out of the box enabled or not. So the whole idea with having event logs turned on for DHCP is so that you can determine who or what devices are actually connecting, the MAC addresses, and the IP addresses that are associated with them, right? And these are all things that you want to have a consistent record of for a significant period of time. This is really important when you have to do any type of incident response, and you're trying to figure out, which host actually had what IP when something bad was going on. It's also beneficial not only from a security perspective, but from an operational perspective, if different devices are having problems with different things, and you actually have to narrow that down and do some type of troubleshooting. Got some people dropping in the chat here, so I'm going to throw their comments up over there. There's Kev. I guess I should take a sip. So, oh, that's good. It's so good. And then, what's up, Kiki? Hey, do you got your drink going yet too? Because I know that you were kind of putting together a little thing later on. So I hope you have a tasty beverage as well. Yep, nothing like a tasty beverage in DHCP security. So the other thing that's here within the checklist that's important to talk about is your lease duration, right? And so that's going to be how long a host is going to be holding on to the IP address that they get assigned. The important thing here, which helps with troubleshooting and helps with security, is that you want those lease durations to actually be a significant period of time. Obviously, there might be some operational concerns with why you might end up running into oversaturation and devices holding on for DHCP addresses for a long period of time, and that causing some issues with everybody being able to get an IP address. But if that's the case, then you really need to expand your scope for DHCP. Ideally, in this case, they're saying that you should have at least 30 days or more, and I think that that's probably a safe bet to go with. So At this point, we're talking about lease durations being good and having some type of logging enabled to be able to see what clients are getting stuff. So there's a few other things that I think are kind of important when looking at these types of things as well. And that is DHCP snooping on switches. And if you aren't familiar with DHCP snooping, well, we could talk about it in another video at some time, do a little bit more in-depth type of thing. If you're all familiar with Network Plus stuff, they might have talked about it a little bit. Definitely would talk about it with Cisco CCNA type of stuff. And pretty much what it is it's some configurations that you do on the switches where you know which IP addresses should be responding as DHCP servers. And if you end up seeing DHCP traffic, or response traffic that's offering up IP addresses and stuff like that, coming from devices that aren't your official approved DHCP servers, or in essence what would be rogue DHCP servers, then you're able to either alert or block on that. So DHCP snooping. I had 2 sips. Really didn't have that much. DHCP snooping is really important. Having IP helper commands within the particular VLANs that you're using for DHCP is really important as well. I think we covered that in DHCP Network Plus Practical Lab video that we did. That IP helper commands pretty much helps point broadcast traffic within a VLAN to a different IP address that sits on a different subnet. Oftentimes within environments, the DHCP server might not actually reside on the same subnet that the devices are on that are requesting an IP address, a dynamic IP address. So having helper statements that are specifically telling you where to go is a good way to kind of lock that configuration down as well. And again, when you're talking about the DHCP snooping before, really what we're trying to protect against there is ARP poisoning, to be able to, keep a rogue DHCP server from impersonating a real DHCP server that's in your environment and isn't approved to be handing out IP addresses. So one thing that you might not think about, and maybe hasn't crossed your mind at this point when talking about these different things and how we go about implementing them, is do you know which devices is using DHCP in your environment? So right off the bat, you're obviously going to be thinking about workstations and things like that. There are other devices within different organizations and environments that might be using DHCP for other things that you might not have realized. So for instance, a lot of organizations might use DHCP for their VoIP phones. And kind of a few different security things that you want to be aware of with that is you want to have its own separate VLAN specifically for your VoIP phones. You don't want them mixing with other types of devices. Also, a really easy implementation that can help improve security with that implementation is using MAC reservations specifically for the VoIP phones. You could do MAC reservations for workstations, but if you work in an environment where there's tons of workstations, that's a little bit harder to kind of control all of that. It'd be a lot more management overhead to do that. With VoIP phones, if if every desktop doesn't have a hard VoIP phone and it's more sporadic in the organization, then MAC reservations on your call manager is a very easy, low-hanging fruit security configuration that you can do that will help with DHCP stuff. Some other things, services that might be using DHCP is if you're doing any type of kickstarting of server images, normally like something like Pixie Boot or something like that. The initial thing that the servers are going to do when they go to pull down images and stuff like that is going to be requesting a DHCP IP address. Again, separate VLANs and using MAC reservations can kind of go a long way there to kind of try and lock that down a bit. Do we have any questions on any of this or comments on any of that in the chat? Oh, it looks like Kiki has her drink as well. Well, cheers to that. If there are no other comments and stuff like that, then I hope everybody has a great weekend. Try to keep this one short. If this was useful or entertaining, go ahead and hit that like button. Also, if this is your first time watching any of these videos on the channel, I appreciate it if you subscribe as well. Hope everybody gets into only good things this weekend, and yeah, has a great weekend. All right, I will chat with everybody soon. Take care.